Hi, I'm Mike Ambriz, and I go to Telluride High School.
And I'm Aidan Cask, and I also go to Telluride High School.
And we did some work with Cube satellites at the engineering department in CU Boulder.
So this is our work environment, which was the lab, and this is where all of the testing happened. What we mainly did was coding the satellite, and this was the workstation for soldering, and that was also a workstation to test the voltage of the satellite and how the EPS was working, which is like the brain of the whole system. And yeah, we took it apart and also tested if everything was working here.
And so a large portion of our internship was taken up by this single program called Hydra, which essentially ran and organized the various sensors that went on the Cube satellite called Maxwell. And the main goal of Maxwell was to be able to fit a bunch of different instruments to collect data and sensors, and be able to actually fly a cube satellite, which is actually like yay big, and then it expands a little bit, and fly it past the moon. And that was the overall goal for Maxwell itself. I do not know who made the sticker, and I was honestly too afraid to ask. So I just took a picture and let it be. And most of the work we did at CU was actually in this conference room, where a bunch of graduate students were each doing their own part. Aidan and I would sit right at the corner. And we'd all kind of just do our own thing. And probably my favorite thing about that was actually being able to ask people what they were doing. And they'd be really happy to answer the question, because if I learned anything from being in that room, it's that college students are there because they love what they're doing, and because they love what they're doing, they're always happy to answer any question you ask them. So I learned plenty about what they were doing. I also learned plenty about the World Cup, which we were watching a lot. So that was fun.
Okay, so this is the computer work we were doing. So they had past programs from the last satellite, which is called QB50, and we had to reprogram it to be configured with the new one, Maxwell. So we went through probably a few hundred, if not 1,000 lines of code, and reprogrammed it all to the new sensors that tested temperature, tested the voltage that ran through to make sure that everything was okay. It read the outputs. And actually, one thing that we were very proud of is there was this one problem that we kept having that was reoccurring. So this was the readout when we ran the program, and all those red lines is like something not defined that we missed. So we always went back, and it was just trial and error. But one time, it just stayed like that, no errors, and no one knew what to do. And we were looking for about 2 or 3 days, and we finally found this packet of files that no one mentioned, because first we asked about them, and they were like, "Oh, don't look at that, just skip over it." And we looked at it, and that was the problem. So yeah, we fixed it, and so now the program is running for the CubeSat to be launched.
Yeah, and then it was kind of funny. We were doing our work, and then they finally told us, like, for the last 2 weeks, they'd be going to a CubeSat convention. So we actually couldn't turn in the work that we did for 4 weeks. So it kind of like it's still gonna be used for afterwards, but they had to use the old code for Hydra that we did not edit for the CubeSat convention. So that was kind of disappointing. Our work couldn't be shown off to a bunch of nerds. But we did end up turning everything in, and that was really good and swell. And so Aidan actually left for the last week of the internship, so I was all alone. And so what I ended up doing for the last week was going back to the same lab and actually watching other interns do their work, who were a lot older and a lot smarter than I am. And so essentially it was essentially just more sensor testing. So at the top, it's kind of ordered. At the top left, is a specific program that would be hooked up to the USB interface, which would then be hooked up to whatever sensor we were working on, which is then hooked up to a graph that displayed results, and then we can input data into the software. And that was a lot of fun to watch. So, yeah.
So our family was
Coulter Clark.
Coulter Clark, and Jean, and so they had 2 kids, which were Shay and Quinn, and they were very sweet. And every time we came home from work, they always came downstairs, wanted to see what we were doing. They always wanted to play games, and I think they learned, hopefully, a few things from us about the rest of schooling. And then we also attended one of their play performances, which was James and the Giant Peach, which was very entertaining to watch.
You can see
yeah.
Quinn is at the very back. He played the centipede. And I wanted to say that we were very, very grateful for the family we got because we actually learned a lot more than we expected. They gave us our own room. The entire basement was essentially empty other than the work that they did really, really early in the morning. And we thought that we'd have a lot of fun down there. We actually would be upstairs a lot because we'd be getting in these conversations, we'd be talking a lot. And if I got anything out of them, it was a lot about parenting and their really unorthodox way of raising their kids. We'd be talking about sex and the usage of the N-word.
And they're 5 and 8, just so you know.
5 and 8. And yeah, but regardless, we learned so much from them, and they have said they learned from us, so I guess that's good and swell as well. And yeah, we did a lot of fun stuff after work. As some of you probably already saw, we hung out with the fellow interns Cooper and Jess, and we went to go do a lot of fun things. We went bowling, we went to the movies. Also, Jacqueline Allen is a friend of Aidan's who was there as well. We wore masks and helmets. And then Cooper and I actually went to Pearl Street because the both of us play guitar. And we sat down in the middle of Pearl Street, started playing, and we made a solid $4. So whatever that can tell you about my capacity to play guitar. And also exploring Denver. That was fun.
And we also went to Elitch's while we were there, and we found a very interesting bookstore, which provided us with lots of great education. Yeah. Okay. And so before we leave, we'd like to give some advice to interns. What I would like to say is that if you really want to get into this internship, you should come to karaoke on Friday nights at Corner House, where you will find Sarah Holbrook. She has a lot of fun. And also, don't take for granted what you're given when you get the internship. When you get there, make sure to be asking a lot of questions, as I'm sure some of you have already heard a lot, because you should be asking a lot of questions. And as I said before, the people who you'll be working with love what they're doing, and they love that you're there, and they love that you're there to learn. So, yeah.